So, tell me more about these baked goods y'all make. Well, we usually sprinkle this special dust on top of it to make it so good that people just keep coming back for it. Why do you ask? Cold open for this one featured a father and son playing a rather aggressive game of catch to help set up the general tone of this one, which, oh boy. The episode proper opened with the Ojamajo just kind of hanging out like most friends would, though one of them being a celeb, and yeah, has this ever been kind of a thing with Ompu? I mean, I think she's gone incognito a few times in the show, but I'm also pretty sure they've never really addressed this as any sort of issue for her. Well, anyway, there were far more pressing matters that attracted Doremi's attention. I don't know, Ben & Jerry's has some pretty nasty flavors that no one should try to recreate. Seriously, it's ice cream. Why would I ever want to go vegan? However, she wasn't going to be able to buy her overpriced ice cream or really anything else, as she had lost her wallet. Of course, she and her friends tried to look for it, but to no avail. Thus, Doremi kind of rightfully suggested that they could just use the magical stage to find it. However, instead, they decided to go with the much more boring, and let's be honest, far less effective method of asking the cops for help. Like, I'm not saying all cops are bad and some policies are different all over the world, but generally, I don't think they really put that much effort into this sort of stuff. Don't worry, kid. We'll find your wallet and... Huh? What's that? Well, sorry. We have to deal with another one of these nuisance streamers. However, because this episode was also a bit of police propaganda, they made this particular cop nice and have enough free time to handle Doremi's issue. Even more so when they realized his son was in the same class as her. Who? Though before they could go any deeper, a third party managed to find Doremi's wallet and just so happened to turn it into this particular police box. Yeah, are you sure y'all didn't use the magical stage? Of course, Doremi shared the story with her classmate the next day, to which Nakajima did correctly point out that his dad really didn't do anything. However, rather than simply pointing out that they were just really lucky that some faceless dude came to them, he also took the opportunity to really downplay his father. Moreover, when Doremi asked him to deliver another thank you, he seemed to be rather pissy about it. Yeah, it's gonna be one of those episodes, isn't it?
Oh, my favorite!
He also took the time to seemingly correct Doremi's pronunciation of his first name, which can be read as either Seigi or Masayoshi. The former is the more common reading of this kanji, as it's the word for justice. But yeah, unless you're a lawyer in a video game, that's not exactly a great name, and even then it's more of a surname than a first one. However, I guess that was the proper reading, at least according to his father, because get it? He's a cop, so he has to uphold that stuff, even to the point that he gave his son a rather dorky name. Yeah, okay, maybe this kid did have some good basis to be entering into his rebellious phase this early on. Anyway, this was actually for later in the episode, as first, Nakajima ended up stopping by the Mahodo and ended up sharing more of his daddy issues. He revealed that he was unable to relay Doremi's thank you, as rather realistically, they pointed out that he worked odd hours as the average police officer. As a result, even when he did come home, he would immediately crash out on the couch. Thus, he did have actual good reasons for having a rather estranged relationship with his dad, but it didn't excuse his bad behavior, and well... And Kotaku is already writing an article about how misogynist this show is. But yeah, this is another one of those points in the episode where it became hard to want to support the Spotlight character of the week, especially when he's never really called out on his bad behavior. Yeah, Doremi just kind of shrugged off this comment, and Nakajima just kept going on and on about how much he hated his dad, which I think they tried to play up for comedy, but he just came off as more loud and obnoxious than anything else. Granted, his claims were somewhat true, as his dad was a bit of a putz, who tried to order his son around. All the while, the mother was just kind of enabling this crap. Like, I get that they're really trying to hammer home the strained relationship between the father and son, due to the former's difficult occupation. A story like this could be really interesting, especially if they were like to take it all the way, maybe with like a police dad who suffers from PTSD, but then again, this is a kid show, so I wouldn't exactly expect him to go there. But at the same time, it does end up leaving this episode in a bit of an awkward middle ground, really. The usual comedy of this show just kind of feels awkward because Mr. Nakashima's job is a difficult one, as he likely has to deal with some rather unpleasant clientele, but I also can't take it too seriously when their arguments go this over the top. Anyway, as a result, let's call him Seiyoshi, ended up running out. He tried to hide out at the Mahodo. This led to kind of a funny bit where Doremi suggested hiding spots, and there was actually a good bit of dark humor which suggested the working oven. Granted, I think it would have worked out better if they built up to that punchline a little more, like maybe suggest the refrigerator as a hiding spot first, because that's a little more intense than getting the JoJo dog treatment. Anyway, Mr. Nakashima of course eventually showed up looking for his son, so they were supposed to cover for him, but... Oh, come on, Momoko. If you're a real New Yorker, you would never work with the pigs. However, he read the room and could tell that his son wasn't willing to come home. Thus, he left him with a little platitude about how men should stand on their own after his son ran away from home because he was trying to control every aspect of his life, including his name.
You realize how messed up that sounds, right?
Yeah, again, the biggest problem with this whole plot is that everyone's just kind of a jerk. Seiyoshi in particular reminded me of a bunch of those suspects from the police body cam videos I watch. And this is why you all should hold off on the Miranda rights for as long as possible. As a result, he claimed that he decided to run away from home, which I think he was already technically doing, but also very obviously wanted the Ojamajo to tell his parents what he was doing, as this all was just clearly a cry for attention. Thus, the Ojamajo went to his house and thankfully ran to the mother who, while she is a bit of an enabler to all of this crap, she did at least have some sense that things weren't exactly right with her family. Sure enough, it was all because of what we had pretty much outlined. The son had perceived his father as a neglectful parent, which he really wasn't, but he also wasn't exactly dad of the year as we just went over. For one thing, he was way too attached to his job. Like, dude, I've been to Japan and barely saw any cops aside from the guys who did the traffic detail. You could punch out for a little while to look for your son, but no, instead it took Doremi taking some drastic actions that you really shouldn't encourage kids to do. You're under arrest for misuse of the emergency services. In the end, it took his chief giving him some direct orders to go look for his runaway kid. The Ojamajo also helped by using the magical stage to help guide him, which I remind you, if they had used it earlier in this episode, we could have avoided all of this, just saying. Anyway, it of course showed him the cold opener of them playing catch near the river where his son was waiting. And with that, the two just kind of went home, and later the son seemingly offered to get a drink for him. I mean, duh, a cop shouldn't be encouraging a minor to handle alcohol. Though as it turned out, it was all just a setup to invite him to play some catch with him in yet another very tsundere way. And the episode just kind of ended with the implication that the two would play ball.
Well, there it is.
Yeah, this wasn't all that great, even though I do think they had some good ideas. Like, honestly, I do appreciate how they point out being a cop is tough and can have negative effects on their families. But they just couldn't really go all that far with this concept, as they also had to make room for this stuff about manliness or something, I don't know. Honestly, episodes like this just kind of feel incomplete, even though they technically did everything they needed to from a structural standpoint. They introduced the problem characters, gave them some backstories, and the Ojamajo helped solve some sort of personal issues with them. The problem here is that the Nakajima father and son just weren't all that well fleshed out. Seiyoshi remained mostly a brat throughout and didn't really apologize to his dad. And said dad, while having a difficult job, was also being a bit of a putz, especially when he didn't look for his kid when he clearly wasn't doing anything at the time. Thus, neither were particularly likable, and I just didn't feel much when things were resolved between the two. I think it would have helped if maybe we had seen Mr. Nakajima do a few more cop things, but then there was that subplot with both guys having like stubborn masculinity, which is an odd thing to have in a magical girl show. I don't know. Overall, this episode just felt incredibly meh to me. Nothing bad, but also nothing really good, especially that Mitsuru Aoyama animation, but that was minor compared to how this father and son really made me feel nothing for their stubborn conflict. Thank you for watching, and you know, if the cops are coming for you, you still have a little time to watch some more videos on this channel. I mean, we tried to not do anything illegal on this channel, but in this modern day, it's hard to tell what's right or wrong anymore. Still, look forward to whatever comes next. And until then, though, fair for now, my friends, and, we're not gonna get a punchline where the cops come busting in? Well, okay then, so...